Welcome to the Early Bird Podcast. It's your old pal EMAC coming to you with Thursday NBA actions with 6 games courtesy of the association. I am joined by the fella himself, Dave Loughran. You know him better as Lofty D. How's it going, fella? How's the hockey? That's more important. How is the men's hockey league going? Since this was the impetus to switch up the pairings of me and you and Adam and Dave.
It's going well.
Pardon me, Dan. Sorry, Dan.
Used to play twice a week, only once now. I don't have time to play twice a week anymore, but it's good, man. It gets me out of the house, keeps me active. I'm going to play as long as my body allows me to.
Now, out here on the East Coast, there's more skating, there's more ice rinks, etc. When I lived in Seattle, I had one of my friends played in a men's league, but there's very few, like there's 3 rinks in the greater Seattle area. So his men's league, the game would start at like 11 o'clock at night, and then he'd get home at 2 in the morning and just be jacked up and just on adrenaline. And their whole rule is it was a no checking league, and it was all, we all have to go to work in the morning. That was kind of their
right.
mantra, just so they wouldn't, beat the crap out of each other or anything. So most often times nothing like that happened. But, then they'd go out for beers and the bars close at 2, and then they'd, work their way home, and he'd have to get up and go to work the next morning. What time do you go? You play at a more civilized hour on the East Coast. Right?
Yeah, some games are at 7:30 or 7:50 or 8:40. 9:30 is the latest. Used to have some games at 10:30 when I was younger, but that wasn't a big deal. So, yeah, it's not bad anymore.
Yeah, the late ones, as they get into their heavy season, they start them at midnight during the weekdays.
Right.
So I'm just like, oh, good God, that's not for me. But we went and watched him one time, and it was kind of fun. We all went out to a bar beforehand, and then poured ourselves into the stands. And he was going through warm-ups, and he took a power slap shot against the goalie. He scored. We all jumped up and yelled. And it was just whatever, skating lines or whatever it's called. So that was his only good shot of the game was in. So, but it was a good time. But anyway, let's get going here. We have 6 games on Thursday night. We, of course, are recording this Wednesday night. This is the Early Bird, your first look, your foundational podcast, if you will, from Awesemo.com. If you've not yet signed up to Awesemo.com, please utilize the promo code EARLYBIRD, all one word, and get 50% off any 1-month package in the Osmo store. So, and that includes anything with Fantasy Cruncher as the add-on. So it's a good deal. Hey, try us out. $2 a day to let everybody else do the heavy lifting for you. Well worth it for me. Laffy, we've got a few teams on back-to-back. About half of the teams are. We have Golden State, Minnesota, Indiana, Miami, Houston, and Utah, all playing Wednesday night. Those games are all going right now, so we don't know if there's going to be any injury updates for them. And then we have some injury news. We have Isaiah Briscoe still dealing with a concussion. We have Frankie Ntilikina. He is out with his, I believe, ankle injury. Robert Covington is down in the G League for practicing, but he is not going to play in any games. But that's an improvement since he's been out pretty much since after he was traded there to Minnesota. Got to play in a few games, but he's slowly working his way back. James Johnson was out Wednesday with a shoulder injury for Miami, and Hassan Whiteside was out with a hip pointer. We will have to see what happens for them on Thursday, so keep an eye out for that. Let's see. Tyreek Evans missed Wednesday night with food poisoning. We'll have to see what happens with him on Thursday. He has not been great, but of course that does open up minutes and shots for Wesley Matthews. Domantas Sabonis is out with an ankle injury. The earliest he will be back is this weekend, but they're considering tentatively targeting early next week. They are still in the playoff hunt, so of course they're not going to mess around. They need him back as soon as possible. Joel Embiid still out with a knee injury. They're going to reevaluate this weekend or early next week. Trey Lyles still out with the hamstring injury. DeAndre Jordan out once again with an ankle injury. Boban sprained his knee and bruised it, the right knee. He is out for 5 to 7 days at least. And then Nene was out Wednesday. He'll be available. Notice how I didn't say he's going to play. He'll be available for the Houston Rockets on their back-to-back Thursday night. I don't think I missed any other ones there, Lofty, but if we see them as we go through, we can touch on those. Let's get on over here to our robust, for a Thursday anyway, coming off that 3-game Tuesday slate. We've got a 6-pack here. Point guard, the world is your oyster, Lofty. Take it away.
All right. Yeah, it's 6 gamers, so it's actually not a bad slate for a Thursday. Russell Westbrook's been pretty fantastic lately, and I would expect that to continue on Thursday. Look, first, Embiid's going to be out, so not that I'm a big narrative guy, but that rivalry that is heated up over the past couple of years won't necessarily be on display. But I'm not sure that's a big deal. I mean, this is a splendid spot for Westbrook, and one of the big reasons for that too is the fact that not having Embiid as rim protection just makes things easier. Hell, Boban's not a mobile defender. He's not agile, but he's big. He's huge, and he clogs that paint up, makes it more difficult to drive to the rim. So, I mean, there's no reason to think that Russell Westbrook doesn't benefit from that as well. I absolutely think he does. So Russell Westbrook at that price point is certainly hard to ignore, and I imagine that I'll have quite a bit of him on this slate. You kind of have to, and the truth is, look, he's not on a back-to-back. That's really not all that concerning to me if he was, because he's a robot. But I prefer him over James Harden at the same price. James Harden on a second of a back-to-back. We're getting word that Chris Paul's expected to play both of these games on the back-to-back, which is kind of odd, but that will be the case. And then on the other side, Ben Simmons, it's really strange. He had a monster first half, 12 point, 11 rebound, 2 block or 2 steal first half, and then literally did nothing. Well, I shouldn't say literally. He had 2 points and a rebound in the entirety of the second half. Just brutal. And that is a little bit concerning, but with Embiid still out, I can't help but go back to at least considering Ben Simmons here. His usage rate has been very solid in these 3 games with Embiid out, right around 30%, the highest on the team. So I wouldn't be surprised in a massive pace-up spot to see him get some work in. 239 total on this slate. It's the highest of the entire slate. You have to like that. And Cousins will be back, so I can't say I'm as high on Curry. Orlando's defense has also played really well, but Curry's per-minute production and usage is significantly damaged by Cousins being on the floor. Those are the guys up top that I think you want to look at the most. And specifically Westbrook, I do like Simmons, but those are the 2 of this 6-game slate that I really like. Once you get down to the mid-range, though, there's not a ton there. Like, if Dennis Smith and Moutier play minutes alongside each other, I could understand it. His price has come down. Jamal Murray's facing Utah. I don't love that. Collison against Minnesota, both teams second of a back-to-back. As you mentioned, he's fine, but really he's like a 1 fantasy point per minute guy when you're lucky, and I'm not really stoked about that. Just go down the list. This position does not have much. I think I probably end up with a lot of Russell Westbrook for that exact reason.
Yeah, and that was an interesting call out there for Chris Paul. They had said earlier he was not going to play on back-to-backs, but if we look at Houston, of course, their game is still going on against Charlotte, but they are just there are 6 teams. They are the number 5 seed at the moment. There are 6 other teams within 6 games of them. So the Western Conference is going to be a bit of a dogfight. We've expected this. That's the other intriguing thing there with Utah. They are on the back-to-back. They're heading from Salt Lake City into Denver. Remember, Salt Lake City is the second highest elevation, still about 1,500, 2,000 feet below the Mile High City. But if anybody's going to be equipped to handle a back-to-back, it would be the Utah Jazz. The other one I did want to point out is Jeff Teague was a game-time decision on Wednesday night. He did sit out. They are listing him as probable already for the upcoming game here. So he won't be in a back-to-back, but just keep an eye out on that because, of course, our pivot will be Tyus Jones. And
he would be your best value at point guard in the event that he plays. Jeff Teague's got to be your favorite play here heading back to Indiana. Not that I care about that, but just the fact that he was playing a lot of minutes prior to that. He had one game where he didn't, but aside from that one game, Teague was getting upwards of 35, 36 minutes. I'd put him around 32. At that price, I'd be happy with it. And then in terms of value, Moutier, I don't know what his minutes are going to look like. It's tough. David Fizdale really makes life horrible, and I wish the Knicks would just never play again. But Moutier's 4,900, and he played 32 minutes. He and Dennis Smith did get some run alongside each other. If that continues, both of them are in play. If not, and we don't know whether or not it will, that's when things go downhill quickly.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's definitely something that we'll want to keep in under consideration there. Among some of the other discount guys, Denver's a bit of a mess. They're working in everybody, so it makes it tough for a lot of their guys. We've seen Isaiah Thomas get some action here. He's not Isaiah Thomas from his Boston days, the Phoenix Sun days, the Sacramento days, etc. But he is getting some minutes there, and that's good to see. He is 3,700. That's a potential wild card there for you. Your mileage may vary. I'm sure better options will open up. One of the guys I do like is Dennis Schroeder, who I always say Schroeder. I have no idea why, but he is going against Philly. He is 4,700. We're getting some nice minutes there. Sometimes he is in the closing lineup, so we like that. Anything here from the old Cleveland Cavaliers? They're just about as tricky to think about as the Knicks, who they will be facing. You've got Jordan Clarkson, who is at 5,100, Colin Sexton at an even 5,000. Any interest there as we look down at the bottom of the price sheet?
Not a ton. I think there's a couple guys that you could get to that are just in better spots. I mean, I don't think Sexton's a terrible play. 35 or 5K flat, not horrible. Clarkson 5,100. They're not. Neither of them are bad options. I don't have that. Like right now, at the position point per dollar wise, I have them right in the middle.
All right, let's move on to the two guard. Of course, up at the top, we do have James Harden. He is going to face Miami.
Sorry, Emac.
Yes.
Let me just DJ Augustine. You could do worse than that against the Warriors. It is a pace-up spot. The Magic are playing well enough right now. They're at home. I could see him getting 30, 32 minutes here at 4,500. That's not terrible for a six-gamer.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's put up a couple nice ones here. He has topped 20 fantasy points in 5 of his last 6. He's gone 28 or better in his last 3. We like to see that. He's ensconced in the starting lineup. And wait for it, Golden State could have themselves a game here because Orlando has won, 7 of their last 9 and 9 of their last 12. And they are checking in, Lofty, surprisingly, not to you because I know you look at this stuff all the time, but they've been a top 3 defensive efficiency team going back 5 weeks so we can get our 15-game sample size accounting for the All-Star break. But that kind of caught me off guard. I mentioned that when Adam and I were doing our last podcast, and it was like, oh, wow, that was a little bit surprising because you always think of Orlando institutionally as garbage, I think.
Yep, yeah, they're playing well.
All right, now we get to the crown jewel. James Harden, 11,000 even on DraftKings. A back-to-back for him going against Miami. But Houston, they're in that dogfight for the Western Conference. Let me just check. They are the 5 seed right now. They are it's tough. Things can change dramatically. So these games are important. We'll have to see what happens with that Chris Paul back-to-back. I don't know that we'll see him get Chris Paul more than 30 minutes. Of course, they are staggering Paul and Harden nicely, so I definitely think Harden is in play, and he is the direct pivot away from Russell Westbrook. As you and Adam mentioned on the deep dive today, Curry does so much better when Cousins is out because Cousins is just a usage monster and can handle the ball or facilitate when he gets it from the winger in the post. So that definitely affects Curry's assists, but he will be back. But Steph Curry is Steph Curry. Donovan Mitchell, yeah, it's okay at 8,000. But let's talk a little bit here about Dwayne Wade. So we've got Wade on a back-to-back. This will be the last time he is in Houston. We have seen him do more on the road, similar to Dirk Nowitzki, who is doing his farewell tour as well. We saw Dirk get 20-plus minutes for the first 2 times this season in, I think it was Utah and Memphis. We'll have to see what happens with Dirk. That's not a worry for this slate. But what do you think here about Dwayne Wade at 5,100?
Yeah. The funny thing about Dirk, by the way, is he's never even said he's retiring. He's just kind of being treated to a farewell tour.
Do you think he wants one Ichiro type season? Ichiro's coming back, by the way, 42 or 3 or whatever he is. Now, Ichiro did the same thing. So this is fun story as we get towards baseball. When Ichiro came back to the Mariners last season, he did not retire when he stopped playing midseason. He moved to an advisory position. But I think somebody made sure that he knew not to retire because the Mariners and I think it's the Athletics will be opening up a 2-game series a week before the rest of Major League Baseball in Japan. So we'll see. Now, I don't think that the NBA is going to be opening up their regular season in Germany, but who knows? But yeah, you are right. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Dirk. And then someone was asking about Vince Carter. They're like, well, why aren't we treating Vince Carter like this? And Vince Carter said, hey, I'd like to play another year. He said, I understand my role. I like being the veteran. I'll take the minutes where I get them. I'm still okay. And I like teaching these young guys. He goes, it's entirely different than what I've done for my entire career, but it's a nice thing. And I just love basketball. I just love basketball was his quote. So.
All right. Well, so at shooting guard, James Harden would be my second guy behind Westbrook on the night. If Paul happens to not play, maybe D'Antoni and them change their decision. That would change a lot. He'd become the best play. And we all know what to do. If Harden at 11K, if no Paul, you just plug him in. You don't think twice about it. I would have Harden behind Westbrook. And then, well, we'll get to the other guys here because there are a few pricey ones. But Embiid is out. And then you've got Jokic against Utah, Vooch, Karl Anthony Towns, Paul George. Those are pretty much all your guys above 10K. Vooch is 9,300. At shooting guard, though, I really don't have much to say here. I don't want to go to Redick. I mean, to be fair, it is one of those spots in a massive, not a pace-up atmosphere, but just the Sixers are losing nothing here. They actually gain a couple possessions per 48, which is saying a lot. I would expect Redick to get shots up, but he's just been tough to trust. He doesn't provide peripherals. And, now that you have Harris in the lineup, you have a bunch of guys that can rebound well. They take that away. Redick's really doing no ball handling, no facilitating. It makes life a whole lot more difficult for him. Jimmy Butler, I actually do have interest in, though, and I would assume that people continue to back away because he hasn't looked great. But, he's going to play, assuming this game stays competitive. Thunder are 7.5-point favorites, but I expect this to stay pretty close. I expect 35 minutes from Butler. This is a game where he's going to need to step up. Look, he did not shoot well, but he still got 16 shots up last time out. He's going to need to be more aggressive, and if he does, I think 7,100 is a perfectly reasonable spot or a perfectly reasonable salary. 83 on FanDuel is a bit rich, but it comes down to how many other guys at the position really make much sense. Like, I don't think Wade's terrible, but he's still – well, actually, no. I let me take that back. Dwayne Wade's is on the second of a back-to-back. So that would be a little bit concerning to me. Let me see here. Because Dwayne Wade, if he's playing back-to-backs, he's averaging 26 minutes per game on back-to-back, so it looks like he hasn't been limited. I still don't love that, especially given that they're traveling for this back-to-back. Not huge there. You could do worse because there's not a whole lot here. Fortunately, DraftKings gives you a bunch of pivot spots because of the multi-position eligibility. Maybe you do go to Clarkson. Teague's expected back, so you're not really going to get to Rose there. I think one guy I actually would rather play Terrence Ross than either of these guys we've mentioned. It sounds crazy, I'm sure, but Terrence Ross has been pretty good lately, and when he gets hot off the bench, he just keeps firing. He's going to have some really bad games like last time. He shot 1 for 10, had a terrible game, only played 20 minutes. But if he's playing well, you're going to get 28 minutes from him, maybe more. And I think that's not the worst spot to be. Bojan Bogdanovic is another one. Really what you're looking at is a whole lot of they're okay type of plays across this entire position. That's really what we've got here.
Yeah, and if you want to ride or spin the wheel, shall we say, ride the carousel, pick your platitude there. With the Knicks, you've got Alonzo Trier, who's had 3 great games in his last 5, but in his last 8 with 20 minutes, or he's averaging about 25 minutes, he's only topped 20 fantasy points twice. 2 of those he got to 30. And then Damian Dotson looked like he might have turned the corner, got back-to-back games with 34 and 36 minutes. And then his last outing, just 17. Lofty, just 17. Hashtag Fizdale.
Pretty much. I really just have no interest in trying to predict what Fizdale's doing on a 6-gamer. In some spots, I'm all right with it. Maybe Dennis Smith Jr. and Moutier, fine. But, aside from that, you don't know what Dotson's going to get. You don't know what Trier's going to get. Kevin Knox, should continue to play big minutes, but then only played 27 last game. Who the hell knows what's going on with Vonleh? Luke Cornett is not playing. And then, of course, Henry Ellison is the one who last game played 36 minutes with 36 fantasy points. I'm sure people will jump on that bandwagon, but who the hell knows if there's any relevance in that last game. He could very easily go back to playing 12 minutes here. I have no idea, and neither does anyone else. Maybe Fizdale will give us something before the game, but that's a prayer.
Well, even when he says, I'd like to see this guy get more minutes, that's like the kiss of death.
It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, it's like you decide who gets the minutes. You say someone you want him to get more minutes.
Yeah, I'd like to have 3 Lamborghinis. It doesn't mean it's going to happen. So despite him having control and being able to do that, you would think that he didn't. You'd think that he's saying, I would love to see this. And then he's waiting on someone else to make that decision. It's pretty miserable.
Yeah. In any event, let's see. Other players, your mileage may vary. It's Aaron Gordon. He generally underperforms his price point, but he is worthy of consideration because he does have 40 fantasy point upside. Sadly, he has only hit it twice in his last 10 games. We do have some nice options here. You've got the twin Phillies. Sorry, I've got baseball. I have baseball on the brain, Lofty, but you've got Butler and Tobias Harris. You kind of mentioned Butler there, but Tobias Harris, very nice up-pace matchup here for everybody in the Philly OKC game, with both teams playing a little bit faster than average. Of course, some tougher defense there. You've got Thaddeus Young on the back-to-back, 5,900 with Sabonis out. He should see double-digit shot attempts nearly guaranteed. We don't want to throw that one out there too much, but we got to say it. And then you're down to the poo-poo platter of your mileage may vary. Jonathan Isaac, you've got Justice Winslow, you got Evan Fournier, you got Jingles. Bit of a mess here. Anybody else from the mid-tier before we move on to power forward?
To power forward or small forward?
Well, we're in small forward now. Before we move on, anybody else in –
Oh, okay.
It's a multi-position eligibility, just jacks with everything.
Yeah, I know. It's pretty rough. Well, I like Paul George. You kind of have to like Paul George. He keeps doing what he's been doing, and until he stops, I'm going to continue rostering him. Plus, you're getting him at a discount from the other guys, which I like quite a bit. Tristan Thompson's ruled out for tomorrow, by the way, but I think we all expected that. He hadn't been practicing. No one's playing more minutes than Paul George since the start of the new year. Nobody, not even Bradley Beal. He's averaging almost 40 minutes per game. So that's just a huge advantage when you're getting that much run from somebody like George. You know, as long as you're going to play that many minutes every game, then I'm on board. It's really all it comes down to. I like Tobias Harris too. I think I was like the only person that was putting him ahead of Butler recently since Embiid went down, and ahead of Simmons in some spots too. And I don't have an issue doing that. I think a lot of people look at him like he's the far distant third, but he's not at all. And one of the reasons for that is that he's just really efficient. And it's not just since he's come to Philly. He was an efficient scorer in LA. And he's, very versatile. He can get it done in different ways, and he's going to play a lot of minutes. Played 39 minutes last game, 35 in a blowout, 36, 35. He's getting a ton of runs since coming to Philly. And that, for as long as that happens, you keep playing him. An efficient player with good enough usage with Embiid out against an OKC team with this game is going to be played at lightning speed. I have no problems with Harris here. I don't love him. I don't see him as a must, but I think he's perfectly reasonable. I mean, you could definitely go down to Aaron Gordon, who's 6,400, right? I mean, Aaron Gordon against the Warriors, here's a pace-up spot for them as well. He'll play his 32 minutes. I don't have any issues with him, and he thrives in pace-up spots like this one against Golden State. There are different ways you can go here. At the bottom, though, this is where it gets interesting because I wouldn't be surprised to see. So you have no Boban.
Oh, let's do it, Mike Scott. Come on, let's talk about him.
Yeah, it might happen. It really might. You have no Boban. You have no Embiid. The question comes down to how many minutes is Jonah Bolden going to play? I don't know, but here's an interesting thing. Justin Patton was recalled from the G League. So they got him in the Butler trade. Is he going to play? It's possible. It's definitely possible because I don't think Amir Johnson will. And if he does, it'll be like 4 or 5 minutes. So it's not unrealistic to assume that Mike Scott continues to get the minutes. He's already played 30 minutes in back-to-back games that Embiid missed. Yeah, I think Mike Scott, despite not being the greatest per-minute guy, has to be in play here at this price point.
Yeah, and absolutely. He keeps things mobile. He did some time here with the Washington Wizards. Of course, he had a lot of time there with, I think it was the Hawks was where he started out. But he is a guy that just puts up shots and is not afraid to take the three. So that's someone that's interesting at 3,800. I was just looking up Justin Patton here. I did not realize he was a first-round pick, but he is from Creighton.
Wasn't it late first round, like real late?
16th.
Oh, not that bad, actually. I thought he was like 26th.
Yes. Well, you got the 6 right there for the Sixers. Yes. See what I did there? That's right. You get nothing but dad jokes. If I had kids, my dad jokes would be unstoppable, Laffy.
I actually don't know if they would stay in the house.
They would run screaming far, far away. Moving along here into the power forward, what are we going to do with Kevin Love? Great matchup for him here against the Knickerbockers. He has played 22, 26, and 28 minutes in his last 3 games. Laid down a monster 2 games ago against Memphis, 54 DraftKings points in 26 minutes, scored 32, hit 6 triples, had 12 boards. He's got double-digit boards in each of his last 3 games. If he's going to get 27 to 30 minutes, I think we're going to have to give him a long look in this matchup at 6,900.
He might be my favorite play on the entire slate.
Is that because he's 6,900?
Yes, C-Mac, that's why. I mean, actually, no, yes, that actually is why. It is because he's below 7K. That is why, yeah. Just not for the reason you were referring to. I know Adam and I –
That's the red band dad jokes.
Yeah, right. Adam and I were really high on him the other game or last game. He wasn't huge, but, I mean, look, like the way I saw it was – and mind you, this is a much better matchup than the one against Portland. Might get a shot blocked 14 times by Mitchell Robinson, but he can also jack up a lot of threes. The big thing about Kevin Love, he played, this is how I saw it, 6 minutes, 16, 22, 26. And then I said, okay, if he plays 28 or 30 at 6,900, I'm on board. Was he terrible? No, he wouldn't have killed you at 37 fantasy points, but it wasn't perfect. It's a tougher matchup with Portland. But still, the exact same thing is the case today. He's 28 or he played 28 minutes. I think he could get to 30 here, 6,900. Even if he only plays 28 against New York, I still like him plenty. But, man, just think about this for a second. Kevin Love on the season is averaging – on the season, he hasn't played that many games, but he's averaging 1.4 fantasy points per minute. So if you give him 30 minutes there, you're well over 40 fantasy points, and that's not even factoring in that he's facing the damn Knicks. So, yes, I love him in this spot, and I think he is one of the better plays on, or one of the best plays on this entire slate.
All right, last guy I want to mention is Jay Crowder, 4,200, provides a little bit of salary relief. He has scored 20 NBA points just 6 times this season, but 2 of them have come in the last 2 games where he has 14 field goal attempts in each of the last 2. He has played 30 minutes or better in just 6 of his last 12 games, but one of those, reaching back to January 23rd, was against Denver. We know that there's going to be a lot of guys that need to be guarded. They're going to need him in there, and Denver is a little bit more mobile than we'd like to see for Derek Favors. What do you got here with Crowder or Favors?
So Favors is another one of those guys that does the back-to-back have an influence on him? I don't know. You've got tonight, he's playing at home against the Clippers, then on the road against Denver. So not exactly far travel. Averaging 24.4 minutes per game on back-to-backs this season. 23. He's actually averaging more minutes per game on back-to-backs than he is normally on the season. I like Favors here. I have no issues with him. I don't love the matchup, but I don't really think you need to because you're getting him at a discount here, and you're going to need to find some decent value. If you get 25, 26 minutes from Favors, he should be perfectly fine. Uh, I also think Thaddeus Young is in a strong spot. This is a really appealing spot for Thad Young, mostly because you have no Sabonis, you have no potentially Tyreek Evans, no Oladipo. Obviously, usage you'll have to see a little bit funneled his way, even if they don't want to. They just don't have enough high usage guys in this lineup, especially now that Sabonis is out. Who do you have? Collison, Bogdanovich can't create his own shot. Thad Young, Miles Turner, they don't have much. So I have no issues with him either. We talked about Mike Scott. I will keep this in mind. There are games still going. I want to see what type of minutes Kyle O'Quinn gets with Sabonis out, playing off the bench, not in the starting lineup. That's important, number one. Number two, I want to see how many minutes Favors plays tonight. That's another one. There are a few things that we definitely have to keep close watch on, but those are two things right there. And another thing is Henry Ellenson. I mean, I don't know how many minutes this guy's going to play, but if you think Ellison's going to play, say, 25 minutes, then you probably have to play him in some spots. I mean, that's really all I can say. If you think he's going to play 25 minutes, then you probably have to have some exposure to him just because he's that cheap. He plays close to the basket, or at least close enough, and those are the type of guys that don't need to have monster games or don't need to have monster minutes in order to put up decent games. That's really all it comes down to.
Just guessing, how many of their last 10 do you think the Knicks have won?
Well, I know how many they've won because they were on an 18-game losing streak. And then then the Knicks beat Atlanta. And, they beat Atlanta in Atlanta. And then they beat San Antonio. And then they beat Orlando. So they've won 7 of their last 10 in 3 straight.
See, this is where the weekends catch it. And that was an 18-game losing streak in Madison Square Garden. Now, and that it's one of those. They've won
4 straight. They beat the Knicks.
Yep, they've won 8 of their last 10.
Not the Knicks. Yeah, right.
Orlando, San Antonio, Miami, Atlanta. What's gotten into the Knicks, I don't know. But
yeah, they've won 3 of the 4 games that Ellenson has gotten minutes this season. How about that?
Oh, boy. A good luck charm, a talisman, if you will. Let's get on to the center position as we close things on out. We've got the Joker going against Rudy Gobert. Of course, Gobert and company are on a back-to-back. Jokic is approaching the team record for triple-doubles. I'm going off memory here. Either he has 12 and the record's 16, or he has 14 and the record's 18, which is held by Lafayette Lever. Fats Lever, way back in the day on one of my early rotisserie basketball teams, Lafayette, back when we used to have to wait for the USA Today to come out on Tuesdays so we could compile our stats. Good times. But the Joker definitely just contributes across the board. That's fantastic. You've got Karl Anthony Towns in a tasty matchup. They're going against the Pacers. He is on a back-to-back himself. You've got Vucevic, who's going to be going against a combination of Draymond and Boogie. Tough matchup, but he has just been impervious, or so it seems. And then you've got 7,900 DeMarcus Cousins. Looking at the top of the pricing sheet there, DraftKings style, is any of those quartet standing out to you?
Well, by the way, I just got the Giannis news, which is frustrating, that he will be monitored. His minutes will be monitored if he plays tonight. Well, that's good. That's just stupid.
I'm going to have to adjust some teams after we wrap.
Yeah, my God, how stupid is that? Towns, I won't have as much of, assuming Teague plays. If Teague doesn't play, I'll definitely have quite a bit of Towns. He's just so much better, mostly because he becomes far more involved as a passer when Teague is out. Jokic against Utah, I don't hate it, but that still means that playing Jokic means I get less Harden or less Westbrook, probably less Harden. I like Paul George too. With Jokic, I'd probably have him among the most expensive centers. I'd still have him as my top guy. But I like Vooch too, and Vooch, discounted. The thing about Jokic, by the way, is on DraftKings he's still 10K flat, and that's just too discounted to not play him. Like when he's that cheap, you don't really have much of a choice but to at least consider him, and that's what I'll be doing. Like I said, I want to see what happens with O'Quinn. I want to see how many minutes Favors gets tonight. Those two things we'll have to pay attention to, and. Mitchell Robinson is still, in my opinion, playable. This is my guy. I really like Mitchell Robinson. He's right now the best shot blocker in the game. Just watch some of his games. Watch him block shots. He doesn't bite on anything. It can't do anything against him down low. He's got 18 blocks over his last 4 games. It's insane. He's played 30 and 33 minutes. He played 30 against San Antonio because Vonleh was in foul trouble. Well, that didn't have anything to do with last game. He got 33 minutes, and he got 33 minutes because Fizdale probably finally said, hey, this guy needs to get more minutes. And DeAndre Jordan's already been ruled out. So, yeah, I still like him. I think Steven Adams is reasonable here against a wildly undersized Philadelphia front court. That's something that's going to play a big role. Miles Turner's down to 6K flat on DraftKings. There's another one. And Clint Capella is 6,700. You can live in that mid-range and feel really good about it without having to get up to any of these expensive guys. Kevin Love's also available here. Hassan Whiteside is 6,800. Always a great tournament option. And Bam's on a second of a back-to-back. I don't know how much that'll make a difference that'll make. Probably not. But the mid-range at center is absolutely loaded, and that's probably where you're going to end up in a lot of spots.
Yeah, and the one thing is most of those guys that are 7K or less, or pardon me, let's look at that, between the 6 and the 7,900 range are center only. So there'll be some choices on DraftKings because we have one center and one utility, but a lot of these guys do not have that power forward eligibility, which opens up another 2 spots for them. So definitely something we'll want to keep an eye out for. With our pal, the one and only Adam at Ship My Money Share, headed off to San Francisco to play in the DraftKings Live Finals. Will you be riding the deep dive on Thursday, or will that be Adam?
No, I'm covering a show for him, but he's going to be riding.
There we go. So you got Adam sorting through all of this before he hops on a plane, but good luck to him out there. Everything else you can get on the DFS Strategy Show, which will be at 9:15 a.m. Thursday. Of course, you'll get the deep dive at 5 o'clock, live before lock at 6. And you got all sorts of content. Starting a new series here that debuted today, written by yours truly. We're working on a few cash game plays. Some for those of you that don't have a lot of time to check things out, we're putting in some solid plays that should not be affected by various news. You're going to always have to check things in, but we're also doing some fun things, showing how you can use different tools that are available behind the paywall at Awesemo. And then we're also doing a Fantasy Cruncher sections to tell you how to do some settings or handle some different situations. Today we talked about playing Jarrett Allen and Ed Davis, and the fact that they have played 8 possessions, 1.1 minutes together this season means you want to set up some groups where you don't have both of them on the same team, because that gets to be a little tough because they both are unlikely to do well. Now, of course, we take pricing into account there, but there are some neat rules you can set up very easily on Fantasy Cruncher. So we do want to call that out. Use the promo code EARLYBIRD, all one word, and you can sign up for 50% off any 1-month package that does include anything that has the Fantasy Cruncher add-on. So you can dip your toe in the pool at a discount and check things out. Any final thoughts before we get on out of here, Dave?
I think we covered it all.
All right. With that, gamers, you can follow Laffy on Twitter at Laffy_D. I am at EMACDFS. Of course, it is Awesemo_COM on Twitter sphere. With that, gamers, good luck.